This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, November 4th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
On the final Sunday of a roller coaster presidential contest.
It's a crooked country.
Or a country of freedom, justice, and compassion.
I'm Julie Walker.
Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, the vice presidential nominees, and their surrogates making a final push this weekend.
The stakes couldn't be higher.
I'm Jackie Quinn.
Last-minute reaction to the polling from Republicans and Democrats.
Very tight race is going to be decided on Tuesday.
I'm Clayton Neville.
A strike that's lasted 7 weeks, idled 33,000 workers, and sent ripple effects throughout the U.S. economy could be about to end. I'm Peter Shackman.
Backlash after Kamala Harris' surprise appearance on SNL. I'm Bob Brown. That story coming up.
The government is releasing more details about a raid at the troubled New York City federal jail. I'm Ed Donahue.
All ahead on America in the Morning. On the last Sunday of campaigning for Kamala Harris and Donald Trump leading up to the election, each spent the day in a battleground state, with the vice president at a church and rally in Michigan and the former president holding rallies in Pennsylvania. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
I am looking forward to these next 48 hours to continue to talk with the voters and talk about the stakes and talk about the future of our country, which I think is bright when we are working with the same spirit of building community, building coalitions, and building the strength of our economy and our country.
With your vote on Tuesday, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of massive numbers of criminals coming into our country. Thank you very much, Kamala and Joe. And I will bring back the American dream, and we'll bring it back stronger than ever before.
On the final Sunday of a roller coaster presidential contest, Republican Donald Trump asking voters in Pennsylvania to again make him leader of what he calls a failed nation, while unleashing a profane, conspiracy-laden rant asserting U.S. elections are not legitimate.
They'll want to put you in jail because you want to make it straight. Think of it. Think of it. They cheat on elections, and you call them on it, and they want to put you in jail. Think about it. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen, but I love it. You know why? Because we've proven something, we've shown something, and we're going to get it fixed, and we got to win this election.
Democrat Kamala Harris at a Michigan church saying God offers America what she calls a divine plan strong enough to heal division.
What kind of country do we want for our children and our grandchildren? A country of chaos, fear, and hate, or a country of freedom, justice, and compassion?
The candidates continue crisscrossing the country, especially swing states, as the clock ticks down to Election Day. I'm Julie Walker.
While both candidates for president focused Sunday on what's known as the blue wall states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, the candidates also spent the weekend in what's called the Sunbelt, with Georgia and North Carolina still too close to call. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports on a final Southern push for the presidential campaigns.
Every day and every voter reached is key to the 2024 presidential candidates who are locked in a razor-thin contest.
When you know what you stand for, you know what to fight for.
It will soon be an occupied country, no longer.
Donald Trump holding 2 rallies in Battleground, North Carolina.
Our country, the day that I left, I shouldn't have left. I mean, honestly, because we did so well. We had such a great. So now, I mean, every polling booth has hundreds of lawyers standing there. It's all about the lawyers. Everybody's standing lawyers. Nobody should have that.
Vowing to undo the past 4 years.
As we rescue our economy, I will also restore our borders. Again, I believe the borders are the single biggest problem.
Each side is investing massive resources to try to drive up voter turnout. Harris is trying to show she would be better on the economy than Donald Trump, and Trump continues to hammer her on immigration.
Are we ready to win?
Kamala Harris also visiting the Tar Heel state, which hasn't been won by a Democrat since 2008.
In America, 1 in 3 women lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban, including Georgia and every state in the South except Virginia. Many with no exceptions for rape and incest, which is immoral. And look, Donald Trump's not done. He will ban abortion nationwide. He wants to restrict access to birth control, put IVF treatments at risk.
Harris campaigning first in Atlanta, telling middle-class families.
At the top of my list is bringing down the cost of living for you.
President Biden stumping for Harris in Pennsylvania.
3 days to Election Day, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
Both urging supporters not to sit out the race. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Today's top stories are brought to you by Sleep Number. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? It's the only bed that lets you make each side firmer or softer whenever you want. Save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition smart bed. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com. Razor thin margin of error. Our election coverage continues on America in the Morning after these messages. Welcome back here with America in the Morning. Severe weather from the weekend may continue today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
A very large and powerful storm system will be building into the southern plains states today, but the reach will extend well to the north into the northern plains and Great Lakes regions. This pattern overall has produced several rounds of severe weather this past weekend through portions of New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma. And with the main part of this storm exiting the four corners, we can expect more damaging storms to develop from eastern Texas northward to western Illinois. These storms will have the potential to produce flash flooding, widespread damaging wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour, as well as hail and even a few tornadoes. These areas, especially in northeast Texas into southwest Missouri, should pay close attention today as these storms develop. Farther north, the rain will continue through Minnesota into Michigan with a few rumbles of thunder. And on the western side of the storm, there'll be much colder air diving southward through the Rockies, and some areas will receive some snow from this same storm. Portions of the central Rockies could receive 6 inches or more by Tuesday morning. Another system will be moving into the northwest today with some rain along the coast and showers building eastward into Idaho and western Montana by day's end. And then this will reach the colder air and mountain snow will once again develop, especially in the northern Rockies tonight. The rest of the west from California into Utah southward to Arizona will be largely dry today with plenty of sunshine, though it will be cooler for some interior locations from Utah into Arizona. That's the weather across America. It'll be a nice day in Birmingham, Alabama, with sunshine and some clouds and a high of 78. It'll be a chillier day in Cheyenne, Wyoming, with plenty of clouds and a high of 42. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Republicans and Democrats are looking to the polls and to the excitement on the ground ahead of Election Day tomorrow. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
A new poll from the Des Moines Register has Vice President Kamala Harris leading former President Donald Trump by 3 points, which is a 7-point shift compared to 2 months ago. This, as new Emerson College polling shows Trump up 10 points in Iowa.
I'd be surprised, completely shocked if that comes anywhere close to being the fact in Iowa.
North Dakota's Republican Governor Doug Burgum was on NBC's Meet the Press and pointed to NBC's latest poll.
I think your poll showing it being tied nationally is more accurate because I think that's the feeling that I get on the ground is a very tight race. It's going to be decided on Tuesday.
Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia agreed with Governor Burgum on Election Day turnout.
The race will be decided on Tuesday. We are seeing record turnout, and the Harris campaign, to their credit, is doing the hard work. They knocked on 56,000 doors in Georgia this past Saturday.
He also spoke with Meet the Press.
The momentum is with Kamala Harris because she represents the future. She represents the hope and the promise of America, a country that is always forward-looking. And you have a 78-year-old president who wants to go back.
As of tomorrow, the polls won't matter as we begin to find out if the energy and the momentum translated to votes. I'm Clayton Neville.
Polling from the last weekend before the election day still shows a battle too close to call. The average of polls from battleground states, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, and North Carolina, has the margin between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris barely above 1%. And in Nevada and Pennsylvania, less than 0.5% separate the candidates. In an average of 22 national polls, Harris is ahead of the former president by just 1%, leaving all polls within their margins of error. A record 75 million people have already cast ballots in the 2024 election. That's almost half of the overall total from the 2020 presidential race. In sports from the NFL Sunday Night Football, the Vikings defeat the Colts 21-14. New IRS 401k contribution limits when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Strike update. Here's CNBC's Peter Schacknow.
33,000 striking Boeing workers are set to vote today on a new contract proposal that would end a 7-week walkout that crippled Boeing's jet production. CNBC's Phil LeBeau says the latest contract contains improvements over the prior two tentative deals.
The raise is now 38% over 4 years. Remember, the previous offer was for 35%. The very first offer was for 25%. They've also enhanced the 401k match that the company will make to the machinist union. And then you have a $12,000 signing bonus if you're a rank and file member once the contract is approved.
The initial contract proposal was rejected by 96% of union members, a number that went down to 64% for the second proposal. And it's possible that this is the one that does indeed cross the finish line. A settlement would also remove one of the reasons Friday's October jobs report was so weak, with only 12,000 new non-farm jobs added to the U.S. economy. The strike, plus hurricane-related factors, among the primary influences. But former Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester does note some bright spots.
I was glad to see that the unemployment rate stayed at 4.1, so that gives you some indication that things are not, as weak as that payroll number suggests it was, and that it was affected by some of those hurricane effects. The number of people who were out of work because of weather was quite high. So I think that's a noisy reading, and I think what the Fed will do is they'll take that into account when they look at all the other indicators that came in since the September meeting.
And though the presidential election is overshadowing pretty much everything else in the business and financial world, the Fed does in fact hold a policy meeting tomorrow and Wednesday. The stock market ended a negative week with a Friday rally on the idea that the jobs report would result in interest rate cuts at each of the remaining two Fed meetings this year. We're looking ahead to another busy week of earnings. About 20% of the S&P 500 is set to report, including media companies Fox, Paramount Global, and Warner Brothers Discovery, and restaurant chains like Yum Brands, the parent of KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut, and Restaurant Brands, which owns Tim Hortons, Burger King, and Popeyes.
Peter, you have some new highlights from the IRS tax code going into effect.
Well, there's good news for savers, including some provisions that are new for 2025. The contribution limit for 401k plans has been raised by $500 for the new year to $23,500. The so-called catch-up contribution, the additional amount taxpayers over 50 can contribute, will be $7,500 for next year. That is unchanged from this year. New for next year is a provision for those between the ages of 60 and 63. Those taxpayers will be able to add an additional $11,250 for a maximum contribution of $34,750.
Thank you, Peter. Controversy over Kamala Harris' SNL appearance. We'll have that and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Thanks for listening. You're with America in the Morning. Following Kamala Harris' appearance on Saturday Night Live, there are questions as to whether that appearance on NBC violated an FCC rule. Bob Brown reports.
A Republican Federal Communications Commissioner claiming Vice President Kamala Harris's appearance on Saturday Night Live this weekend with just hours before the election violates the equal time rule. Harris flying in from the campaign trail to make the surprise late-night appearance on SNL featuring former cast member Maya Rudolph as Kamala Harris.
Nice to see you, Kamala. It is nice to see you, Kamala.
FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr appearing on Fox News, not amused.
The FCC equal time rule has been on the books for dozens and dozens of years. NBC knows this because this exact issue has come up time and time again with respect to this exact program, SNL.
Carr is the senior Republican on the commission appointed by former President Trump. An official in the Trump campaign telling the Washington Examiner that SNL never extended an invitation to the former president to appear on the show. Bob Brown, New York.
Federal agents raided the New York City jail currently housing disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, targeting illegal drugs and weapons. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
The government is releasing more details about a raid at the troubled New York City federal jail. It's the jail where Sean Diddy Combs is being held. The Bureau of Prisons says drugs, homemade weapons, and electronic devices were taken, and it was not in response to any particular threat or intelligence. No criminal charges have been filed in connection with the sweep. This was not connected to Combs' detention. His lawyers have said conditions there are deplorable. Violence, even deaths. One inmate was speared in the spine with a makeshift ice pick. Combs' lawyers are trying to get him out on bail. He goes on trial in May on sex trafficking charges. I'm Ed Donahue.
America in the Morning for Monday, November 4th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Last-minute campaigning in key battleground states. I'm Clayton Neville.
Democrats in Nevada believe their ground game will make a difference in the state where Republicans are leading in the early vote. I'm Pamela Furr.
U.S. responds to Iranian saber rattling, severe weather in Oklahoma, and a new hurricane may be forming targeting the United States.
A federal jury has convicted a former Kentucky police detective of using excessive force on Breonna Taylor by Norman Hall.
Disney Corp creates new AI business unit. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
The new Robert Zemeckis film failed to defeat a symbiotic comic book hero in theaters. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Welcome back to America in the Morning. There's half a foot of snow in the national forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
A powerful storm system will be exiting the Four Corners region today, and on the western side of that storm, there'll be much colder air diving southward through the Rockies, and in some areas there will be snow. Portions of the central Rockies could receive 6 inches or more by Tuesday morning. Another system will be moving into the northwest today with rain along the coast and showers building eastward into Idaho and western Montana by day's end. And then it will reach colder air again with mountain snow developing in the northern Rockies tonight. The rest of the west from California to Utah, southward to Arizona will be largely dry today with plenty of sunshine, though it will be cool for some interior locations from Utah to Arizona with highs in the 40s in the north to 70s in the south, which is about 10 to 15 degrees below average. The powerful storm in the Four Corners will be entering the southern plains, but the reach will be much farther to the north. This pattern overall has produced several rounds of severe weather in portions of New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma this weekend. And with the main part of the storm heading into the southern plains, we can expect more damaging storms to develop today from eastern Texas northward to western Illinois. These storms have the potential to produce flash flooding, widespread damaging wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour, as well as hail and even a few tornadoes. These areas, especially in northeast Texas into southwest Missouri, should pay close attention to these storms today. Farther north, there'll be rain continuing through Minnesota and Michigan with a few rumbles of thunder. And out ahead of the system, in the plains from the southeast, into the eastern Great Lakes, it'll be much warmer with highs in the 60s and even low 70s. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Last-minute campaigning is underway for the presidential candidates and their running mates ahead of tomorrow's election. Correspondent Clayton Neville has an update.
The Battleground states are the site of a slew of campaigning ahead of the presidential election. The candidates encouraging Americans to get out and cast a ballot.
Vote, vote, vote. Gonna win it.
Former President Donald Trump held a rally in North Carolina yesterday.
With your vote on Tuesday, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into your country. Your country is under siege.
He told the crowd that this election is a choice
between whether we will have 4 more years of incompetence and failure or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
Democrats see it differently, though.
His entire campaign, just like his entire presidency, has always been based on him. It's about him.
Former President Barack Obama campaigned for Vice President Kamala Harris in Michigan.
We have a chance to choose a new generation of leadership in this country and start building a better and stronger and more hopeful America.
Harris took the campaign stage in East Lansing.
Let us remember that there is power in knowing that we are together, and let us remember that your vote is your voice, and your voice is your power.
The running mate's hard at work, too. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was in the battleground state of Georgia, where he held an Atlanta event with Second Gentleman Doug Imhoff.
Kamala Harris has done everything we could ask of her. She is leading us down that field. Now it's our turn to get her over the goal line.
And Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, was in Derry, New Hampshire.
We're fighting for the basic principle that if you work hard and play by the rules, you ought to be able to get ahead in this country that all of us love. Now, I believe that that can happen, and I believe it will happen, but it won't happen unless we give the American people a president who is fit to lead this great nation.
Today, the candidates will be making a number of stops. Walz and Vance each slated to hold events in La Crosse, Wisconsin, as they hit that state hard. And Pennsylvania, a big focus for the presidential candidates, both Trump and Harris holding rallies in Pittsburgh, and the vice president also hosting a rally and concert in Philadelphia. I'm Clayton Neville.
One day before the election, Nevada Democrats are cautiously optimistic their ground game will lead to a victory in a state where, by all accounts, early voting shows more Republicans than expected have already cast ballots. Pamela Furr takes a look at the western battleground states.
The early voting numbers are in, and around half of the state's active registered voters have cast ballots, with Republicans leading, and that has Democrats nervous. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, a Nevada Democrat, tells CBS's Face the Nation,
I am optimistic that we are going to win, not only for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, but for Jackie Rosen in this state. I'm absolutely confident in our ground game, in our canvassing and knocking on doors and talking to our voters, because that's literally what matters here, is making sure that our voters who are paying attention now in a swing state like Nevada, that somebody's talking to them.
A Republican presidential candidate, by the way, has not won the state since 2004, but the Democrats' margin of victory has decreased in recent years. Over in Arizona, the picture is a little different. Former President Donald Trump appears to be running neck and neck with Vice President Kamala Harris, but that's not the case in the U.S. Senate race there. Kari Lake, a self-proclaimed MAGA candidate who is yet to concede her defeat in the 2022 Arizona governor's race, has been struggling against her opponent, Representative Ruben Gallego, even with Trump's endorsement. A New York Times Siena poll released yesterday shows Trump at 48%, leading Harris by 4 points. Gallego up by 5 points against Lake, winning not only 95% of Harris voters, but 10% of Trump voters. I'm Pamela Furr.
In the Middle East, the United States has deployed B-52 bombers and sent new warships to the region as threats from Iran to strike Israel again have the world on edge. Correspondent Rika Ann Garcia reports an Israeli Arab town was hit by Hezbollah missiles as Iran's supreme leader vows a punishing response to recent Israeli strikes.
We've been very clear that Iran should not respond. I said this on Wednesday. We will continue to support Israel. Our support for Israel's security is ironclad. And if they choose us to do so, we will continue to support Israel as they continue to protect themselves.
Iran's supreme leader threatened Israel and the U.S. with a crushing response over attacks on Iran and its allies. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei addressed a crowd of supporters and said, "In our battle against the arrogance, we will definitely do whatever is necessary to prepare the Iranian nation in terms of military preparation, weapons, and political work. Thanks to Allah, the officials are already busy doing that." The supreme leader did not elaborate on the timing or scope of any attack. Iranian officials are increasingly threatening to launch another strike against Israel after its most recent attack on the Islamic Republic. Iran's military bases were targeted and at least 5 people were killed. It was the first time Israel's military has openly attacked Iran. Further escalation from either side could affect the wider Middle East, where the Israel-Hamas war has already heightened tensions across the region. An attack on the central Israeli town of Tira has injured 11 people. The pre-dawn strike on Tira was one of the several barrages fired from Lebanon. Many of the projectiles were intercepted by Israeli air defenses, while others landed in unpopulated areas. In Lebanon, health authorities said Israel launched dozens of intense airstrikes across Lebanon's northeastern villages, killing more than 50 people and wounding around 72 others. Any further attacks from either side risk escalating the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza into a broader regional conflict involving the wider Middle East. I'm Rika Ann Garcia.
When we return on America in the Morning, Kentucky cop convicted of excessive force, and Disney's Imagineers replaced by AI, among the stories we're covering after these messages. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. A number of tornadoes, including one rated as an EF3, carved a path of destruction through central Oklahoma. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
There were probably at least on the order of a half dozen, but from what I saw, because I was awake watching some of this since it was local, and it appears that there could have easily been at least 6 tornadoes or more.
There are signs of houses ruined and reports of people injured in the Oklahoma City area.
There is power lines down on the roadways. Most of the roadways are closed. Our local utility company, they're out. Our gas and electric company are both out. They had to shut off some gas meters that was broken, and so there was some gas spewing in the air. They had to get to those and then also make sure that the power shut down through all that area.
Authorities say a tornado and severe thunderstorms struck the Oklahoma City area during the early morning hours, causing injuries and scattered damage. Police say half a dozen people were taken to hospitals.
Widespread damage to housing, to some residential and commercial properties. Our initial response was pretty tough due to the torrential downpour. We had heavy rain.
Aerial surveys show homes battered with roofs torn off, trees down, and cars flipped over. There are thousands without electricity. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Here's a potential November surprise. Weather experts are keeping watch on a tropical system in the Caribbean that could power into a hurricane. It's being called Tropical Cyclone Number 18, and it's already prompting hurricane watches for Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. The National Weather Service says by the end of today, it's likely to earn the name Rafael and gain hurricane status. If it follows the current track, it would pass over western Cuba, heading into the Gulf of Mexico, and potentially travel toward Mississippi and Louisiana by Friday. The U.S. has been hit by 5 hurricanes this season, killing over 300 people and causing more than $130 billion in damage and economic losses. A former Kentucky police officer has been convicted of using excessive force on Breonna Taylor during a deadly raid. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
A federal jury has convicted a former Kentucky police detective of using excessive force on Breonna Taylor during a botched 2020 drug raid that left her dead. The 12-member jury returned the late-night verdict after clearing Brett Hankerson earlier in the evening on a charge that he used excessive force on Taylor's neighbors. It's the first conviction of a Louisville police officer who was involved in the deadly raid. Hankerson fired 10 shots into Taylor's glass door and windows during the raid, but didn't hit anyone. The death of the 26-year-old black woman, along with the May 2020 police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, sparked racial injustice protests nationwide. I'm Norman Hall.
Another famous restaurant chain files for bankruptcy. Texas-based TGI Fridays filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, citing failing sales and continued fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. TGI Fridays operates 39 company-owned U.S. restaurants, but also has franchises all over the U.S. that stayed out of the bankruptcy filing. The chain's U.S. sales declined by 15% from the previous year and have closed down 11% of their overall locations since 2021. Records by bankruptcy.com show that filings for restaurant chains and operators this year are on track to hit their highest level in decades, not including the 2020 pandemic year. America in the Morning continues. Disney is exploring the use of mixed, augmented, and virtual reality in its movies and theme parks with a new AI business unit. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
Disney is forming a new business unit to coordinate the company's use of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and mixed reality. According to an article from Reuters, the media giant is exploring the use of AI applications across its film, television, and theme park divisions. What is to be dubbed the Office of Technology Enablement will be led by Jamie Voris, the film studio's chief technology officer, who spearheaded the development of the Apple Vision Pro mixed reality headset. Disney Entertainment co-chairman Alan Bergman said in a statement, "The pace and scope of advances in AI and XR are profound and will continue to impact customer experiences, creative endeavors, and businesses for years to come." He was also adamant that it will not centralize work on those projects, but rather ensure other projects around the company fit with the broader strategy. According to someone familiar with the matter, the core leadership team is expected to grow to over 100 employees. For more tech news, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
In with Monday Sports, here's our Robert Workman.
We're just past the midway point of the NFL season. After Week 9 on Sunday, the Lions pounced on the Packers 24-14 to improve to 7-1. Kirby Joseph with a big pick six at the end of the first half, though he did forget to celebrate.
I was just too happy. I ain't never had no pick six, so it's just my first career interception. Next time I got you, though. And next time I'm in the end zone, I got it.
The Vikings kept pace in the NFC North with a 21-13 win over the Colts Sunday night. Commanders beat the Giants. Washington 7-2 for the first time since '96. Eagles held off the Jaguars. Jalen Hurts threw for 2 and ran for 1. Cardinals crushed the Bears. Tyler Bass booted a 61-yard field goal with 5 seconds left to lift the Bills over the Dolphins. Ravens rolled over the Broncos. 2 scores for Derrick Henry. He leads the league in TDs and rushing yards. Chargers bolted past the Browns. Joe Burrow threw for 5 touchdowns as the Bengals buried the Raiders. Falcons corralled the Cowboys. Kirk Cousins had 3 TD passes. Panthers tripped the Saints. Titans topped the Patriots in overtime. And the Rams got by the Seahawks. Demarcus Robinson's second touchdown catch from Matthew Stafford came in overtime.
He thought it was a run, so I guess Matthew had a great fake with the running back, and I was able to get on top of him. I beat him by 5 yards, and Matthew saw me coming out of his rollout.
Tonight it's the Buccaneers and the Chiefs. NBA, the Mavericks mauled the Magic. Luka Doncic had 32 points. Pistons cut down the Nets and the Hawks over the Pelicans. NHL, the Jets soared past the Lightning. Winnipeg 11-1 so far. Hurricanes blew by the Capitals despite career goal number 860 for Alex Ovechkin. Bruins blanked the Kraken. 23 saves for Jeremy Swayman. Rangers, Wild, Oilers, and Blackhawks win. And the Final Four in the NASCAR playoffs are set. Ryan Blaney won in Martinsville. He and William Byron joined Joey Logano and Tyler Reddick in the final group that will race for the Cup this Sunday in Phoenix. That's Monday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. The word of the year. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. A theatrical shocker as Tom Hanks and Robert Zemeckis fizzled at the box office this weekend. Kevin Carr reports.
This weekend, a CGI Tom Hardy defended the top of the box office from a CGI-enhanced Tom Hanks.
Eddie, I'm with you to the end.
Venom: The Last Dance repeated in the #1 spot, easing about 50% with $26 million. That's not a terrible hold, but the threequel is nowhere near its predecessors.
How fast do you think you can get that thing to go without killing it?
Only one way to find out.
Fortunately for Sony, the film is playing well internationally, sailing past $300 million worldwide.
You can call me Roz.
The beloved family flick The Wild Robot was goosed back into second place, gaining in box office from last week with $7.5 million.
Something really crazy is happening to me. I keep seeing this face everywhere.
In third place was Smile 2 with $6.8 million. The weekend after Halloween helped this one stay in the top 3.
Well done, Lawrence. It seems the responsibility for the conclave falls upon you.
In fourth place was the award hopeful Conclave with $5.3 million, setting the stage for an awards run.
Time sure does fly, doesn't it?
In fifth place was Here.
Sure does.
This reunion of Forrest Gump director Robert Zemeckis with stars Tom Hanks and Robin Wright failed to capture an audience, grossing a scant $5 million. I'm Kevin Carr.
New fallout from Saturday Night Live. A rapper is being released from jail, and we have the word of the year. Margie Zaraletta has that in entertainment news.
Maya Rudolph's portrayal of Vice President Kamala Harris on Saturday Night Live surprised the audience when she talked to herself in a mirror and the real Harris talked back.
I don't really laugh like that, do I? A little bit. Now, Kamala, take my Pamela. The American people want to stop the chaos and end the drama with a cool new stepmamala.
Harris made an unscheduled stop in New York between campaign appearances. Rapper Young Thug is a free man after he pleaded guilty to gang, drug, and gun charges in a racketeering case in Georgia. He must abide by a long list of conditions for his probation, or else he will have to serve 20 years in prison.
Yeah, 360. When you're in the mirror, do you know what you see?
The word of the year is brat, according to Collins Dictionary, defined as characterized by a confident, independent, and hedonistic attitude. It came into popular use after singer Charlie XCX called her album Brat. Collins officials say Brat Summer became one of the most talked about phrases of 2024. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
That's our show for today, Monday, November 4th, 2024. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.